What's up, gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Outwired. Excited to have all you guys here with us today. Scott, welcome. Glad you could find the link and make it work this week. I'm proud of you, man. I just wanted to start it off like a motivational thing.
We aren't done yet, so
like we're here to lift each other up, right? Celebrate each other's victories, all those kinds of things. So excited to have both of you guys here. We got some cool shit to talk about today. Not yesterday. Sorry. Last week we dived into the data, the niche down. We were talking about, we'll pick up with the same campground where we left off. We were just using Willow Lake Campground in Canada as an example, but I want to dive more into that stuff, talk a little bit about, like, here's some thoughts about Scott from the data. We'll kind of run through it, do a recap briefly. Are you coming up, dog? No, you're laying down there? Okay. And then we'll dive into some other things that we missed last week too. We're going to talk about Visa and Mastercard accepting credit card payments. We've got some news from Google. They're accepting, or they're rolling out more of their AI search into different places. So that's going to be fun and interesting. We'll see what we get to and all that jazz. But start off with the week. Like, let's come across your desk, guys. Who wants to start? Well,
go ahead.
Whiskey.
I'd say, we've talked several times on here about, conferences and like content, what kind of keeps people, why there may be in some cases some waning interest. And
yeah, we all need to go to, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we all need to go to Australia next year to their conference. Joe
I think so, yeah.
There,
I was talking to some folks who are on their way to Australia. What did you say, Joe?
Yeah, Joe Dumeg from At My Communities over there, I think, with his marketing person, and maybe I'm sure his wife is over there too. Like, do you go to Australia without your wife to a conference? I don't think so.
No, she went
Rose
first.
over there.
In fact,
okay.
Yeah, I saw that the whole crew up down in Florida. So.
I've been looking at it, like, I registered for it one year, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and then I just could never go. But like, it's because it always falls over my girlfriend's birthday priorities. So anyway, sorry, continue.
Oh, anyway, my point, I think, is that the content at the conferences is, I think the bottom line is, if you want to keep people showing up and engaged in it, the content itself, you just have to think about it a little bit more. Make sure it's relevant to them and really listen, because I feel like I had a really good response to, the stuff we did down there. We had a 3-hour session, campground owners, and
Sandy Ellingson, right? Or Sandy Ellingson and somebody else, or
it was Sandy Ellingson and me.
Okay.
And no one left. It's like, and we even gave them breaks. We even gave them ample opportunity to just get the hell out of there if they wanted.
And they still didn't leave? Are you sure they were awake?
Pretty sure. I'd walk the room and tap on shoulders, just to make sure. But
you should try the little rolled up paper balls, just like fling right at their forehead.
We served.
They jerk.
Lots of coffee.
It
was, and it's like it just kind of kept it rolling. And I think having things be a little bit more interactive helps a lot. The more interactive you can make it, and I have some thoughts on doing some of that stuff too. I think in the future, just to make it more interactive. Just some things that might be kind of cool for people to do. But that to me was what it was all about. I mean, and then I presented on the second day as well, co-presented with Casey Cochran from CampSpot, and afterwards I had a flood of emails, people wanting a copy of the presentation, and one person's like, I'm going to go over this slide by slide with my entire staff, so it's like,
do you ever respond to those and be like, why didn't you pay attention when I was actually talking live? Why did
well, They do, but they want to go over it with their staff. You missed that part.
Well, photographic memory. Like, come on, get your act together.
Well, not everybody can be a Brian Searle.
That's
I
right.
don't have a photographic memory. I can't even remember 5 minutes ago. But go ahead. Sorry.
But anyway, that was kind of the point. It's like, I think, we as people in the industry, when we do these presentations, to just really think it through a little bit more and think about, one, can we engage the audience a little bit better? And what do they really need? Do they need, we talked about macro, micro data. Do they really need all that macro stuff? Not really. Maybe a couple of them thrown in is good, but they really want to know what's going to help me run my campground. What's going to help me run my business. And if you can do that, and then and the other part of that too, and I know we've talked about this too, is just connect with each other. Those kinds of interactions are just, invaluable, and people love the opportunity to talk to each other, share things, and so on. But yeah, that was kind of it. That was from the Florida Alabama show. That was one of my takeaways and things I thought about. I think I would add just one more thing on there, is sometimes as an industry, we can get kind of siloed into our areas that we focus on, which in some respects that's fine because it's hard. But I noticed that in just between that and some of my interaction with some other people, that there's this really lack of understanding of what some other sectors of the outdoor hospitality industry are doing, and what they are. It's pretty striking at times when I see that. So I think, but I kind of see my role as trying to help people and educate them. I think we all do, helping people out and help educate them, tell them what's going on and why is it important to understand what's going on in some of these other sectors. What are people doing?
I want to play devil's advocate for a second. Did you? I'm not
Just for a
saying I believe
second.
this. Just for a second, yeah, not for the whole show.
I
Do you think some of that disconnect from other sectors of outdoor hospitality is because it's the same people speaking at the same shows over and over and over again, and you don't get to hear new voices sometimes?
It's quite possible. I mean, I'm not going to give away any organization's name.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to.
But I did run into that directly, and because I actually said to someone running a show that in the different sector, it wasn't campgrounds. Just so we know that it's none of the ones I've gone to and the people I know. So no one can try guessing.
Probably full of shit, Greg. He's just trying to cover his ass.
I might be, but I was like, maybe it might be cool if you actually had someone from this sector at your show and do a talk and just kind of talk about the industry and what's going on, and maybe the relationship between what they're doing and what your sector is. And it was almost like this derisive tone I got in response. It really kind of put me aback. Like really? You don't think that that's a good idea? It's like, we don't want to be a part of that. That's what I was told. And I thought it was really myopic on their part. But that's part of it too. People can do in their silos. Sometimes they want to keep them that way.
I wanna eventually, if we make enough money, like together or in our businesses or whatever else, and we decide we want to throw in together, we should plan like an anti-conference conference sometime in the future, like 15, 20 years from now, when we all are like rolling in money or whatever. We'll just plan on being rolling in money. I don't know if I will, but surely consulting will be a big thing. So you guys will take off. I don't know if the AI thing is going to stick yet. So like, I think it would be really interesting to have an anti-conference and have like, and I bet like nobody would attend it. So we'd have to be willing to like lose money on it to a certain extent. But like, just to have people who would show up and say like I would love to see a presentation from a hotel guy on why hotels are better than campgrounds. Just to learn from the opposition research. Like we talked about the 5 people who won't stay at a campground, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do you think this would be like? I don't know that there's many campground owners who would be willing to fly out and attend for that, but it would be really interesting to kind of put it on. Like there's other ways I think we could make a conference better, just to be clear. But it would be interesting to have those different kind of perspectives. Maybe like maybe just a track in a conference that's separate, right? Not the whole conference is that way, but just a track of like alternative viewpoints of like, maybe you should reconsider your perspective, or like, that kind of thing. We've talked about that in the past with a bunch of other people, like about different segments of just how things work, like all these awards that go out, right? Like we were talking about star ratings before the show, but like there's so many companies now that do awards. Like you get an award for this, you get an award for that, you get an award for this, you get an award for that. Like and a lot of these are really deserving awards, to be clear. Like I'm not cutting down on anybody who receives an award. I just think there's a lot of awards out there, and they're all calculated so differently, and they all overlap in so many different ways. You're the best campground. No, you're the best campground according to our calculation. No, you're the best campground because you're a large park versus a small park versus a medium park. You're one site. Like, I wish there was an awards for like just the crazy things that nobody's giving awards for. I think maybe we should start that for the Outwired. Like if we, maybe after a year, if we've had the show going long enough and we have a good, better following, we'll start like the anti-awards. And I had a conversation with Casey from CampSpot about this one time. It was one-sided. I was just talking to him over Slack. But like, I just don't want to lump Casey into like Casey's endorsing this. He's definitely not. I'll have to go back and look at that. It's probably deleted because there's like a 90-day expiration history in Slack. But we were talking about like some of the crazy awards that I would do for like an anti-award type thing. But it would just be interesting to give away some of that stuff and just have fun, right? Not insult anybody, just have fun. Like, but just play with the industry a little bit. I don't know. I'm rambling now. I'll shut up. But like, I agree with what most of what you're saying, Scott. I'm curious, like, how do you decide? You talked a lot about in your presentation, just give me the things that help me run my campground better. How do you as a presenter decide that? Because there are obvious things, right, that will make your campground better. But there's a version difference between the person sitting in the audience who's never heard Scott Bahr before, who says like, this is what I want to hear. And then there's what they need to hear.
One, I try to avoid telling people what they want to hear. I don't think that's very.
Yeah, but I mean, from a facts and figures, like I want to hear how the macro or microeconomic data is going to change my campground because of border crossings and I'm in Maine, right? That's what they want to hear that. That's what I mean.
Usually what I do is I put it in an explainer with it that why is this relevant to you as a campground owner? For example, if you take some of the results from the Camping and Outdoor Hospitality reports, the whole idea of like forest bathing being a trend, and the people's travel goals are to disconnect, to unwind, to relax. It's like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? It means that your guests, there's a good chance they're going to show up, and a lot of them are going to want to do maybe nothing, but to have an atmosphere and an experience that's much more relaxing, that allows them to do that. And maybe one of the things that you can do is to promote that, to say, we have a relaxing place for you to disconnect and unwind. You just use those words. That's what people want to hear. The forest bathing thing. It's like, you don't have to say forest bathing, but you can say, we have places where you can take, quiet walks in the woods, where you can just hang out and take it all in, where you can relax and decompress and kind of let it all, just kind of wash over you. So, it's that kind of thing. It's like, those are results. There's several data points from the survey that point to that. So I might give them the stats of how many people want, who are interested in these types of things, or who say they want to do that, and then follow it up with, and here's how it applies to you. That's typically my approach to it, because to just throw it at them and just say, well, here you go, 52% of the people say they want to, disconnect. Okay. What does that actually mean? So again, that's, I think that approach has been fairly effective for me, at least. Because without that, the person is just going to be, again, they're just going to sit there, and eventually they are going to be sleeping and drooling on the table.
I think people do their market research all wrong. Like, I think, no offense, Scott, like, I think there's some good use cases for all the things you do. And I'm really just playing devil's advocate again, because I like to do that, as you gentlemen know. But I think they do their market research all wrong. Like, if you want to know, like, let's say we run a campground and you want an audience of people who like to be disconnected from technology, whatever else, right? That's just what you want to foster. Like, we talked to two really cool gentlemen on MC Fireside Chats earlier, who run glamping resorts, and that's a big focus, is like eco, nature, connect with it, be disconnected, whatever else. There's one guy who's owned a plot of land near Big Sur for 20 plus years, is completely off the grid, has no electricity, but like has a restaurant like with a sushi chef that's all run by solar panels, right? So just but it wants to foster that kind of communication. Like, I think the way to figure this out is just to open your campground, market to everybody, and then just walk around with like a little cell phone jammer outside people's cabins. And if they start screaming after like 5 minutes, right, then you know that they're like, just check them off the repeat visitor list. We don't want to market to them anymore. That's the easier. You could just, I think it might work.
That's called observational research, Brian.
Yeah.
That's ethnographies. You observe people in their natural environment.
So that's different than the market research. You're saying it can be combined with both?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Scott still has a job for now.
Thank
I
God.
mean to question you, Scott. I'm sorry.
No, I was done. You guys can ramble on now.
Well, that's what we're doing. Like, I don't say anything coherent on the show at all. That's what you two are here for. Greg, what do you got? What's on your?
You may be in trouble. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Well, so first of all, before I get into it, I do want to touch on one thing you said, Brian. Anti-conference conference. Would anyone come? Wouldn't, by definition, an anti-conference conference have no people at it?
Maybe.
If it were an anti-conference conference, it wouldn't have attendees.
Keep talking and tell me your thing. I'm going to see what Burnout Bob thinks.
So anyway, my thing, as you guys know, I like to watch the secondary market. I think it's kind of just fun. I have this fantasy that I'm going to buy a Class B one of these days, but I can't bring myself to pull the trigger on something like that. That's going to sit in my driveway 90% of the time. But I have been watching it, and over the last probably 4 to 6 weeks, prices have been falling on almost all segments. Totally anecdotally, by the way, I should say this is it's like geo-fenced for my area here from Northeast Ohio, and then out like I think 250 miles. Okay, so this might not be nationwide, but I've seen more units show up. The units that have been on for a while now have had significant price drops, except for like fifth wheels and Class A's haven't been that effective, but Class B's, travel trailers, Class C's, I've seen all of them bump up in inventory and down in price, which I think is interesting and kind of moves towards what we're going to talk about a little bit on the show with new RV shipments. And I always wonder about how those two things are tied, and all I have is anecdotal evidence, but I thought this was kind of an interesting thing, because as we know, camping's kind of evergreen. We've talked about that a bunch before. So why are people suddenly, and I still get certain clients telling me that, especially if they've got destination parks, that both their revenue forecast and their occupancy forecast is up for this year.
See, I've had people tell me it's down.
Yeah, but are they in destination campgrounds?
Probably not.
The destination parks that I work with are all reporting numbers being up. Okay. Whereas I think that maybe the quick stops, or like the KOA journey types, are down. I don't know.
Can you define destination for us, just for the people who are watching? Because obviously, is it like, do you mean destination like, let's say, the Port Huron KOA guy who's built his own destination? Do you mean a destination like somebody who's within Pigeon Forge, Tennessee? Do you mean a destination like a park that's outside of a national park?
When I say destination, I'm talking about the park that, like the first one you mentioned, they've sort of built their own destination. They might not be near a big draw, but they are a destination park. People go to that park to be at that park. It's the type of park I owned, and I think a lot of campgrounds fall into that, where they were built maybe a long time ago when people were just like, you know what, a campground would be sweet out in that field, and they didn't really think through, and market data didn't exist. They just built it, and then people came. So now they have to sort of carry their occupancy with their own, their own amenities, their own activities. So those type of parks are at least, small sample size, right? Just the clients
Yeah.
that I have, but their destination parks still look good. But for some reason, it seems like, anyway, again, just in my little geofence, that the secondary market is actually on its way up. Like there are more, well, it depends on how you look at it, more inventory, lower prices.
Okay.
So that was it. There's see, I almost know where we can go with that, but
Well, maybe
that's
there
the
is. I mean,
tidbit.
I'm sure like Scott probably has some thoughts on that a little bit, but like before Scott answers, like what's with the cowboy hat in the background? That's all I'm thinking while you're talking.
That's not my well, it's not really a
You wear
cowboy
that
hat.
thing?
I wear that thing. Dude, that thing is so big that it's
It
like
looks like
having
you're telling me it's not a cowboy hat? It's like one of those big giant like froofy Karen sun hats? Or what is
straw.
it?
No, it's not quite. I'm not going to Coachella or anything with it. I
Okay.
mean, but it's a big straw hat that gives me like, it's like walking around with an awning. It's a lot of shade.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Anyway,
That's all right.
Scott,
I'll wear it some week.
any thoughts on that, Scott? Like what?
On what? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was focused on the hat.
It was a hat,
Destination
yeah.
parks that were like, I was half paying attention. I zone out when Greg talks anyway.
It's easy.
No, but destination parks, like being up or down, like it's really hard. Like and again, who knows how? I don't know how all this stuff is going to swing, and none of us do. And this is the same tone that we've taken since February when we launched the show. And we look at the data and we talk to the people and we have anecdotal evidence that something's up and something's down. And you look at the economy and you're like, why the fuck is anything up? But then like you see these swings like in the stock market. Does that impact consumer behavior? I don't know that it does, because the average consumer, I feel like, is not watching the stock market every day. So do the things like the rollback in the China tariffs that are maybe temporary and maybe not actually impact consumer sentiment? Or is there something else that's like, it's so hard to predict this stuff.
Yeah, I mean the whole idea of where things are at with the destination parks and so on. It's like, I honestly I think it's gonna shake out fairly well this year. At the end of it, I think by the end of the year, people will be like, yeah, it wasn't bad. It's like
overall or with destinations or
both. I think with both. I think overall,
okay.
It just seems like people are getting past some of this stuff and realizing that that they're going to move on with their lives, and they're going to have to realize that paralysis is not a good thing. I do still think people will stay closer to home. I think that will continue. I think there's a lot of data that suggests that will continue to trend. But I do think people are going to get out, and I do think it may not be this year necessarily overall, but I think I'm going on record, and I guess since these are recorded, it will be there in perpetuity. But that the more kind of like traditional type of camping, I think, is going to make a comeback. I do. I think that the desire for that kind of experience, it's not going to I don't think it's going to be gigantic, but there's going to be enough people where parks are going to be like, we need to have a section of people to just have, pretty basic, pretty Spartan area, or maybe even more of those micro parks. I know some people have been experimenting with that a little bit, too, where you just you show up. It's just a small. There's one of those here. It's actually a national forest campground, just not far from where I live, and it's on a beautiful pond at the end of a logging road, and that place is packed every weekend and most of the weeks, and it's hard to get to, and all it is really basic sites. One of those water pitcher pumps for your water. That's it. And then this nice little pond.
So that shows exactly what your research has already shown, Scott, right? That, car camping, right, is making a resurgence. That's exactly the type of camper you're referring to.
Yep.
And it's both because of like, it's more than just the economy though, right? That's driving this behavior. Like it's more than just the need to save money.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so too, but like, what do you specifically think is driving it?
I think people's mental health, to be honest. I mean, really.
Okay.
They want to get away from all this. It's
But are you saying that car camping is better for their mental health than RVing, or like what's the argument? Like that's what I'm trying to discern.
I think that
I mean, I think it is because at least the car doesn't break down as much as the RV. Say
Right.
that out
It's
loud.
easier to go the places you might want to go. It's easier.
Yep.
It's less expensive. You're much more flexible in what you can do, where you can go. So I mean, I'm not to say RVing you can't have a similar experience. This could be a little bit different. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it is more like it is more limiting. It just is. Like it's not limiting, period, but it's more limiting than car camping or tent camping.
correct.
For sure.
Like we were in Vancouver Island, and that's kind of my thing. Like we were in for the week. We were in Vancouver Island, my girlfriend and I, for just a quick 4-day vacation, like way up north, right? So we flew from Calgary to Vancouver, and then we flew from Vancouver to Port Hardy, which is like an hour and change flight. But way up in the tippy top, like nothing up there, right? Like super small town or whatever else. And so we spent like 4 days up there. But we went to like there's an island called Malcolm Island that's off of North Vancouver Island. Like there's tons of little islands, but Malcolm Island's a big one that a ferry goes to. And there's a beach over there where like it's one of the only places in the world is accessible. It's actually a beach where the orca whales, who are residents that come back in July or August,
They come in and
like
itch their bellies.
will do whale rubbing on the beach.
Yeah.
And so like there was nothing there when we went there, right? But like but there's like you can see the beach and there's a platform there and it's just like a crazy steep drop at low tide. Obviously it's high tide probably when they're coming in and rubbing their bellies. But there's campsites set up there. Like not like directly in view of the beach, right? But really close along the shoreline, like a quick 2-minute, 3-minute walk away down a forested trail. And they're just nice and secluded. And they're like, I mean, there's like a road there, like a little tiny like campground road, right? And then there's campsites all along the ocean there, and like, but it's small and quaint, and like just there's a little services thing for firewood, and that's it. And like a couple, outhouses for restrooms, washrooms. So, but yeah, like that kind of stuff. Like I said to my girlfriend, we were walking past, I'm like, I would camp there. Like I enjoyed that. Like I really, and I've realized, like I realized on that trip, actually, I come to these realizations sometimes on my trips, but like this one specifically was like, I've realized as fast as I've been moving with AI and that's caused me to move so much faster and focus on so much things, I actually have not been able to disconnect and enjoy the outdoors as much as I would like to. Because even when I'm out there, I'm thinking of something. And so I realized that I need to put more of an emphasis into that. But just I used to like go car camping, to go tent camping, to just like set up all the stuff and roll out my sleeping bag and do all the things. And right, it was always interesting to me to do. Just maybe more so because it was challenging. But getting back to that stuff there's nothing like it. There really isn't anything like it.
To me, it's like you just got to get people to experience it, because once they do, they're like, "Oh, this is what it's all about."
Yeah, but I think it's almost you're right, but I think it takes 2 or 3 times, and it takes a realization. Like even for me, like I've always liked that, and I knew that I wasn't getting outdoors as much as I used to in like the last year and a half, 2 years, right? Since AI, since ChatGPT, because I've been going nonstop. But it even took a couple times for me to realize, like it was the 4th day of our vacation. We were just walking along a beach, and I like had a problem with a client that I had to solve. Like that was just the client thought it was an emergency. We'll leave it at that. Anyway, and like it took that for me to kind of realize, like I'm walking along this secluded beach, and there's no one here with my girlfriend, and she's enjoying it, but I'm not really enjoying it because I'm thinking of this problem that I had not, like, I'm not really I'm in the nature, but I'm not disconnecting from it. And so I think the first time you put somebody in that situation, they're thinking about like, I don't have my phone, but maybe the second time it's a little less. And the third time they're like, oh, I can actually do this. And then it hits them. So I think it takes a couple times. Maybe. Like, I think everybody's different, obviously, right?
Or immerse yourself for a few days.
Yeah.
That's
that too. Yeah. The day 2, the day 3, whatever. But like even just, it's just those small moments. Like, Jessica, there's a video here that I uploaded on the right-hand side. There's 2 of them actually. One's 4 seconds, one's 10 seconds. Just pick one, the bears on the bottom there. Just play one and then we'll play the other back to back. All right, so that's fine. We'll show the other ones. 4 seconds. Go ahead. So that was like we took a grizzly bear tour on I think Saturday of last weekend, and it was like a full 8-hour tour. Like we got into a boat, and we like literally the boat went 2+ hours up into the like down inlets and in channels and back into this place where nobody exists at all, but where the grizzly bears all hang out because there's this little flower there that they like to eat or something like that. And that was Thimble with her 2 cubs. That was the second year of their life. We were the first people to see them come out of hibernation because it was literally the first day of the tour that anybody had ever done. But like that kind of stuff, like when you can look at that and you can say like, cool, I saw grizzly bears and I've got my phone out and I took pictures and I'm going to share it on social media. And then you could look at that and be like, holy shit, that's a fucking grizzly bear with her 2 cubs. And they like just run through the forest every day and eat berries and dance on little logs and go to beaches and drink water. And like, that's a whole different level of disconnection when you have that realization of what you're witnessing, I think. You guys agree, or am I just...
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I lean into in a couple of my presentations. That, I mean,
well, you like to do that too, right, Greg? Like you like to do that in Colombia.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll travel to those places to see those animals. I mean, yeah, have done it. We'll do it again for sure. And it's really difficult to beat. And I'm not just saying this from my own selfish standpoint, right? Like this is what I like to do, but it from a data standpoint, from a research standpoint, and Scott, forest bathing, all that stuff, right? It leans into this. The power of conservation-based experiences, let's say, right? Where you involve wildlife or stargazing, the universe, it is deeply connective for people, not just to the critter or to the experience that they're having, but also to place and to other people around them. And you put those 3 things together, boy, you try to figure out how to get that integrated into your campground. I mean, now Mother Nature or the universe, however you want to look at it, it's doing the work for you. You just guide the people to that experience. If they have it with you or at your place or somewhere nearby, you've got a customer for life, and you didn't really have to do a lot. You just kind of had to take them there, make them feel safe, show it to them.
Right. There it is. And it's thinking about those unique, like I think my AI posted about something like this the other day, and the AI, it was an AI like for, against, and then the AI was like, that's maybe not such a good idea. But like it's something similar to that. It was talking about like a walkway through the forest and paying attention to the plants that you curate and put along your boardwalk, so that as the user goes, they have a different sense of smell alongside the walkway. And so like, and the argument against it was like, well, it's going to rain and whatever else. And so it might not be a thing and like whatever. But so if you're a curated experience like that, then sure. But I think there's something to that. There's something to, and I think it resonates with what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Anytime you can take the senses and build them in like that, it's so deeply connective.
Yeah. I mean, it just changes all the things. And then like, and the stuff that you learn too, right? That you don't expect to learn. Like I'm not really a big fan of tours in general, but when I say tours, I mean like the bus tours with like 60 people and shuffling me around, and like the cruise ship excursions, and like just fuck off. I want to go enjoy, like when I want to leave, I'll leave. I don't want you to tell me when it's time to get back on the bus, right? So, but that's just my preference. There's nothing wrong with tours, right? That's just how I prefer to experience vacation. But when you talk about things like the grizzly tours and stuff like that, or like a whale watching tour, or like in Iceland, we did little boat tours that like you had to there, right? To go around the like little glaciers in the lagoon and stuff. Like the knowledge you can get from those people is crazy. And you think you know a lot of stuff. Like Greg, you think you know a lot of stuff about birds. I'm sure you go on a bird tour all the time and you're like, oh, I didn't know that. That's cool, right?
Well, I mean, Yes, of course.
Fucking
Yeah,
arrogant.
yeah, of course, especially if it's out of the country. Yeah, we're
Yeah, if
going to.
it's out of the country, right?
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, even in the country. I'm not trying. I'm just being a dick. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fine.
yeah, of course.
This is a show to be a dick. That's what the show's for.
Well, then I'm in the right place. But
Yeah.
yeah, yep, absolutely. Learning that stuff, it again, it cements it all together.
Yeah, like there was two things. Well, one thing that was really cool. Another thing that was pretty funny. And I think I just probably gave away the answer, but like, so what rank these in order? Which one do you think causes the most deaths? Number one, a teddy bear. Number two, a grizzly bear. Number three, a black bear. What do you think, Scott?
Probably the teddy bear because people choke on the parts.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so I got that. Like, they gave away. They were doing quizzes and whatever else. I actually scored the top on my grizzly bear quiz, but I got that question wrong. So of the whole boat, like there was only like 8 of us on the boat, right? So, but yeah, those little things. And then here's the one that really shocked me. We saw another, like they drove out at the end of the grizzly bear tour, rode out on the boat, whatever, on the way back to the marina. And we saw they stopped and there was one of those huge rocks with like a ton of sea lions on it, just all bathing and whatever else, right? And we stopped and took pictures of them and looked at them from the water and whatever else. But the guide was like, I don't know if you're aware of this, but like if you look at a grizzly bear and a sea lion, they're actually descended from the same ancestry. And if you look at their skulls side by side, they're almost exactly identical. Just one went to land and one stayed in the sea. And they showed us pictures of the skulls and they're literally identical. I had no idea.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, that was interesting to me. That was my one thing, just talking about my Vancouver thing. So, all right. So before we move on to our thing, do we need to just do this Campground Under Conference thing? Cause I ran it, for Burnout Bob. So
I actually ran it through ChatGPT too. So.
Oh, okay. Jessica, click on Scott's then on ChatGPT. Let's see the real answer.
And you're not wrong.
If you click that link.
There's some interesting stuff in here, Scott.
There was some stuff there. I was like, you know what? That's a really good idea.
There are.
So let's do this. So you clicked on that. Okay. So if you go back to actually, do you know how to move that between the browser? Can you just drag that and move it to not the whole thing, but just the tab? Just grab the tab and drag it to the left onto the other monitor. There you go. And then put it up there in between the other ones. If you just slot it inside a tab where all the other ones are, there you go. Just drop there and then share the screen. So go back to restream and then click you can make it big. And then click the square button there and then share that tab over there. I think it's Outdoor Hospitality Conference Ideas at the top there. Probably because I didn't have that open. And then just hit share. Okay, so there we go. So I just clicked Scott's link. So do you want to talk us through this, Scott? Because I don't have it on my other screen over here. It's just right in front of us. There's a share screen. But just scroll up to the top, baby Jessica. Just tell her where to scroll. And then if you hit the Control Plus on the keyboard, it should zoom in. Jessica. Maybe. That's not working. All right. So just hit Control-0 to go back to normal. Anyway, go ahead, Scott.
Anyway, so the prompt was really simple. I just said, if you're going to hold a conference for outdoor hospitality professionals that is in contrast to the typical conference, what are some ideas for content? Very simple prompt. I just wanted to see what came out of it.
All right. So what came out of it? I'm leaning forward because it's cut small on my screen too.
So conference format ideas, contrast to traditional, a campground-based venue. I've actually been to some, not really conferences, but meetings that were like this. These are great. This is if you can pull that off, sometimes it's hard with the number, but anyway, the unconference model, let attendees pitch session ideas at the start.
Okay.
This is one of the things I like. Use Post-its or a board to build the agenda collaboratively. I really like that. Focus on peer-to-peer knowledge exchange, not keynotes. Mobile workshops, load attendees into vans. I've done this as well. When you go to some like the state park directors conference is always a fun one. They always do this kind of stuff. Some of the other state offices of outdoor rec, they do this kind of stuff. This is really, really kind of a cool. thing too. Go out there and visit sites and visit places and do that kind of stuff. Hands-on learning, stuff like that. You can see, I like they said, ADA stuff here, nature-based areas.
And we do tour, like a lot of them do tour local RV parks, but like and admittedly, like, have you guys ever been on one of these? I never have.
Okay, I've gone on the prospective buyers workshop one with at what used to be Arvik is now Ojai at OHCE, and they go to like 3 or 4 in a day. Our state association here in Ohio, their spring conference is only, they call it a POOT tour, Park Operators on Tour, POOT. That's all the OCOA does for a spring conference. They have they visit the parks, then they have like a meal somewhere, and they'll chat like Cracker Barrel style.
Jessica, if you click, I'm sorry, never mind, if you click that, click the second one over to the right, or the one, click that one,
and
we can
so
see
valuable
while we're doing the thing.
It is so valuable to get out and see other people's parks.
Yeah, is it all the same? Like, is it always the same thing, or how do those work?
No,
like,
they definitely
try. The same thing because the owners tell you different stories, but
yeah, and they definitely try to get different, segments. Like they might try to get one that's a journey style park and another one that it is a destination style park. It doesn't always work out. Depends on the location and who is willing, because that's you've got to have a park owner that's willing to have 40 or 100 of his peers show up and start going, well, that sucks, Ed, and well, why'd you do this, Ed? But most of the time they don't have a problem getting that, because people are really happy to, one, show off their hard work, and two, get that knowledge base walking around their campground. I know I tried and was never able to get on. None of the food tours were never in our area. I would have loved to have everybody come through my park and tell me what they like and don't like, and just pick their brains at things. Definitely just such a knowledge base. I would love to have that going through my place, but they're really, really informative, really good, Brian.
Okay, cool. And then what else do we have? Reverse trade show.
This one, I like this one a lot too.
I did too.
Instead of vendors pitching attendees, campground owners rotate through 15-minute mini sessions where they describe a challenge and vendors offer possible solutions. I mean,
that's way better.
It is.
And if honestly, if you're a vendor and you can't offer a solution to somebody's question, then maybe you should rethink your positioning or your product or service.
Right. You should be,
or just who's at the conference trying to sell for you. Maybe that's a better thing.
Yeah. It's like a lending tree approach to vendors and campground owners, right? I've got a problem. Come on, everybody pitch. I'm waiting to hear who's got the best solution.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I like that. And then workshops and fireside sessions.
Yeah. This is just kind of having, conversations, or forest bathing. Yeah. Like, I guess chat does pick up on my prompts in the past, but fireside chats, stuff like that. Some of these are really kind of just, they seem to be like site-based, like take it out there, get it out of the big, convention halls and convention, venues and stuff like that. And
what if we do that for our anti-conference? What if we just literally take everything as like it literally means? So like forest bathing, we can just have like 10 park owners go out. We've got remote bathtubs set up with hot waters. Like, what the fuck? We were expecting to learn about forest bathing. Well, what do you think this is? What do you mean you're cutting off? Come on, man. Obviously, like swimsuits are required. I'm not saying anything crazy.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure we cleared that up.
Yeah. Anyway, all right.
Some of this other stuff, fresh content ideas, experiential design thinking, where people try to design their own site plan for accessibility, guest experience, and revenue. Real world case studies and sketching tools and stuff. I mean, again, kind of it's hands-on, it's interactive. I talked about that earlier. The whole idea of things being a little bit more interactive. A lot of this is what that is. Instead of people coming to to the venue and sitting there watching presentations and listening, this is a lot of this stuff is hands-on, much more interactive.
I've talked about this before, not in this specific example that I'm about to give, which will probably get me in trouble with people who aren't as liberal with their thinking as I am, perhaps, or maybe not as anti-liberal. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. I thought, as AI progresses, I want to get into video game design, and I think we could design some really cool video games that would teach owners how to operate their parks better by putting them in different situations, almost like an Oregon Trail, right? Where you have to succeed. And so you take all the different paths and you figure out how the people die or struggle or the kid falls off the wagon or whatever it is, right? And then you figure out like, oh, this is a nice way to make my park succeed. So like even something as simple, and I think that helps people put you in people's shoes too, right? In different situations. Like imagine if we, and I'll do this. Like imagine if we could code a game where you could be an ADA person in a wheelchair who would start at the beginning of the campground, and then like you have to make sure that that guest is safe the entire experience and comfortable and convenient and whatever else. And so as he works his way through the park from arriving in the car to figuring out, do you have a ramp, to how does he get to your store, to how does he get into his cabin, can he access the sink and wash his dishes because the counter height's correct, all that kind of stuff. I think those would be really interesting things to create, and AI is going to allow us to do it.
Yep. So
all right, what else we got here?
I'm not going to go through all these, like, what to do with on rainy days, some brainstorming ideas. What went wrong? I kind of like this too, where things didn't go right. But here's one, number 4 on this list. Guest says gurus. Bring in real campers, RVers, overlanders, families, accessibility advocates, and so on to share what they want from a campground.
I want to
a little focus group. That's a fantastic idea.
I want to bring in the guy who wipes the shit on the walls and have him talk to the conference about what he wants from a campground. That's what I want to hear from.
Obviously, he's not getting it. So
yeah.
But wouldn't it be fun to see what his answer was?
Well, I don't know if I want him attending though. That's the thing.
or anyone from his demographic, let's say, because there's more than one of those guys.
Well, we got to be inclusive, so he would have his own restroom. But
no, we don't. It's an anti-conference. So accessibility's out the window. We're making it not accessible to the turd flinger, to the whatever you want to call him.
We should come up with a name for it. Anyway, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Anyway, future forecasting, kind of getting people to be more forward looking, this kind of stuff, tactical sessions. I think there you could probably come up with a list of, some better ideas. A lot of them are doing the pricing thing now, but how to fire a bad guest, that's probably something that a lot of people, but there's a bunch you could do there. I would do one on like how do you, analyze your own data, stuff like that. Then just some of them, themes that break the mold, hospitality, low cost upgrades, bringing that nature back to center stage. I mean, we literally just talked about this. Digital detox, same thing. Again, sustainability, the equity lens, and beyond the pool. A lot of people would probably like to talk about that. Beyond the swimming pool. What can we do?
I'll volunteer to teach the how to fire a bad guest, because I think that goes back into what we were talking about the cell phone jammer outside, or like a little smoke bomb inside the vent of their cabin, so they have to evacuate. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, safe things, right? But if they're a bad guest, they're a bad guest. I guess there's bad guests and there's really bad guests. So maybe save my stuff for the really bad guests.
Yeah, well, but the next point there under atmosphere and cultural shift kind of would take care of those people. Just shut the Wi-Fi down in the morning. Right? Make mornings tech free.
What if you shut the Wi-Fi down in the morning? But there's all kinds of ways to deal with this. What if you knew who the guest was who smeared the poop on the wall, and they kept coming back? There's more of these than you think. Jessica's laughing. There's more of these than you think that exist out there.
Yes,
you talk to campground owners.
Yep.
And so what if you knew who that guest was, and you could like shut down all the shower stalls except for one when they went to go take the shower or whatever, and then you just slick the whole walls with like olive oil so it just wouldn't stick. And they're super frustrated the whole time. And they're like, I can't understand why this isn't working. I don't know. Anyway, okay. Scott.
Thinking it through that far may leave me with more questions about the olive oil applying idea than
we need to have an uncensored version of Outwired, I think, for some of these things.
Yeah.
So,
but I don't think so. That's okay. Sorry.
Okay, Scott, go ahead.
Anyway, that's kind of the end of the last part was the atmosphere and culture shift. No PowerPoints before noon. Make them tech free. Live music, local food. Some places already kind of do this kind of thing. Quiet zones, creative spaces. I don't know about that. But and merit badges, whatever. But I think the atmosphere and cultural shift happens with the way the thing is done. If you take some of those, and it actually did put together an agenda, a 2-day agenda for it, even.
Oh, nice.
That we could, I don't know, if we could share this, but it's kind of cool. I think this kind of thing here, I feel like people would eat this up.
Absolutely.
Good, then we'll do it one day, guys.
I think they're dying for something different. To the point that you guys were making earlier.
Who knows? Maybe we pitch this idea to some of the organizations. I know there a couple of them were, are concerned about attendance and concerned about people being bored with the content. So it's kind of like, do something different, break the mold, get out there and.
Yeah, but it requires risk, right? Because so that's interesting. That's a whole other conversation we could have. We got to get to niche down stuff. But real quick, do we want to do let's do the Burnout Bob one real quick.
Okay.
You have to switch over to, you can stop sharing the screen and then you have to switch over to my number 5 camera, Jessica. And then just put me big. All right. So my prompt was like, aren't you tired of going to campground owner conferences where you want to learn more and it's the same classes with the same teachers over and over? What if you could design the perfect conference for campground owners, an anti-conference, so to speak? So, oh God, yes. I'm so flamingly tired of these campground owner conferences where the coffee's weak, the PowerPoint has clip art, and Todd from Minnesota is giving his 97th class on how to upsell firewood without emotion. It's like summer camp for bored accountants in khaki cargo pants and sensible shoes. I don't want to hear another panel discussion titled Digital Marketing 101 from 2007 delivered by a guy who thinks SEO is a tractor brand.
Oh, he's talking to you, Brian.
Probably. Let's throw gasoline on the whole concept and create the first ever anti-conference for campground owners. No lanyards, no ballroom buffets, no Steve from Site 12 teaching Excel tips like it's a TED Talk for trees. And then we have the Campfire Chaos Convention. I haven't read this, by the way. So an anti-conference for the burnt out, bored, and beautifully unhinged campground owner. This is Outwired should for sure put this on. Where a real-ass campground outside with bad cell service and good bourbon. That's perfect, right?
I'm already in. I don't
when
need to see
summer, dress code. Well, not summer for the campground. Well, maybe, I don't know. Like, let's just get them to all leave their campgrounds out of the stress, maybe. Dress code, flannel Crocs, and unearned confidence. Theme is burn the box, then roast marshmallows on it. Schedule of events. Opening ceremony is the bonfire of bad ideas. Every attendee must throw one terrible idea they've tried into the fire and confess it to the group. I like that.
That's good.
That is.
Examples: I tried goat therapy, or I built a zip line over the dump station, or we let Chad DJ karaoke. The zip line over the dump station seems very dangerous. Winner gets a trophy made of melted picnic table legs. 2 is a keynote by Chainsaw Larry, motivating staff through fear and fireworks. No slides, just him, a megaphone, and a chainsaw he legally shouldn't own. Half inspiration, half OSHA violation. Workshops that actually slap, guerrilla marketing with zero budget and questionable ethics. Topics include hand-painted road signs, TikTok stunts, and using your grandma as an influencer. Passive income or passive aggression. Learn whether you should install glamping domes or just guilt your guests into tipping more. Owners should get tips. I think that should be a thing. Like, everybody else has started asking for tips everywhere. Have you noticed that? Like, I think campground owners should just put that on the little checkout thing, like when they give it to people. Let them check it out. Solving real problems with fake solutions. Okay, what else we got? Late night games, campground chaos gauntlet, obstacle course made of hose bibs, reservation systems, and screaming children. See if you can navigate that as a campground owner. Must complete it while explaining your cancellation policy out loud. Whiskey roundtable, let's all complain for 90 minutes. No notes, no plan, just campground owners sharing their worst horror stories while drinking. Healing through sarcasm and shared trauma. That could work.
That's pretty much every conference we already have.
Yeah. Staff role play theater, the customer is always what? Act out actual guest interactions. I brought my own electricity. Why is the moon so bright? And your grass is too green. I don't trust it.
That one's solid. That would be a lot of fun.
Secret session, the underground staff support circle. No bosses allowed. Staff members vent while building a voodoo doll made from lost and found flip-flops. Bonus events, speed networking, and golf carts. Every 3 minutes, you switch carts and try to convince someone your haunted yurt business is viable. The duct tape Olympics, competitive tent patching, cooler lid repair, and impromptu sign making. Winner gets a raccoon-themed crown. He likes
There it is. I was
raccoons.
wondering how long. Bob's always got to work in a raccoon.
Raccoon somewhere.
There it
He
is.
does that. Closing ceremonies, everyone gets a participation flask filled with the tears of every camper who asked if the lake was man-made or woman-made. This isn't just an anti-conference. It's a revolution in Crocs, a rebellion in flannel, a movement powered by propane and sarcasm. You want this to be real? You want a promo flyer, a fake website, a registration form that asks for your emotional damage level on a scale of 1 to Karen? I'll build this madness with you. Let's make it the only campground conference that actually deserves to exist. Do we like it? Jessica's applauding. You guys are look like you're unsure.
I think between the two, there's some good, especially Scott's. No offense, Bob.
Yeah. Oh, Scott's is way better. To be clear,
some really.
We knew that going in. We knew
Bob's
that.
Bob's got some good stuff, though. Bob's got some good stuff in there.
All right. Okay, niche down, guys. Are we ready to focus on this? So we have. Let me find this thing because let's see. Let's see. We can probably find the Willow Lake. Come on, ChatGPT search. You can do it. Campground information request. Okay, so we had. All right, so Scott, you were here for some of this, but just to recap for the people who maybe didn't watch the other show, assuming I cannot close Chrome when I'm trying to operate. How did I do that? I scrolled down on the mouse pad and it just stopped. All right, so for Scott, as soon as we find this, I know, and for the people who maybe didn't watch the whole episode last week or didn't watch at all last week, this is where we kind of started. Just to recap, we went from, at the beginning, learn about my campground, study all the pages, read all the text, look at all the photos, remember every detail of every word. And it went out like, this is with O3. You can do it with other models, but O3 will go out and not only browse your website, but some of the other places, brings back a bunch of information. Then I want you to figure out different types of buyer personas who would likely stay or be convinced to stay, or RV sites, cabins, any type of accommodations I offer. Fully flesh out these, so it gives us our buyer personas. So we have long weekend launchpad families, seasonal socializers, retired couples, cabin capers and millennial couples, mobile office nomads, so the remote workers, reunion retreat, friend and family groups. And then it talks about how to do that. And now do the opposite. So this is, I don't know if you were on for this, Scott, the 6 anti-personas.
Yeah.
So almost certainly. So it talks about the phrases that you should, how to politely repel on your website. So that was all pretty interesting.
That was really good. I recall that.
And then we did discounting and forgetting all the people who would not stay with me above. Let's focus on the people who will. I want to begin by writing website copy on my homepage that will be seen by all of these different types of people that will generally resonate with them and encourage each different group to explore more content that I will create later specifically for them. And then it talks about above the fold hero images and looks at the existing copy, right? Brand promise blocks, all that kind of stuff. We went through that last week. If you want to go through it again, you can go back to watch our latest episode or just pause as I'm scrolling. And then I said, what interior pages, list them all, should I create to make sure these buyer personas feel welcome? So it talks about some of the gateway pages. We've talked about this with clients before. A page on family weekend getaways, on seasonal RV living, on cozy cabin getaways. And then your core pages for your RV sites, cabins, cottages. Again, this is based on Willow Lake, right? And your amenities, a dedicated pool for your pool or page for your pool and playground, a dedicated page for mini golf and games. This is really interesting to me. Just calling it out more. Were you on for that, Scott?
No.
Okay, so yeah, it was saying create instead of just an amenities page, create a page focused on here's where you go. So now you know that it's not just a playground and a list. It's a page that talks about your pool and playground and has beautiful pictures of each of them specifically, talks about all the fun things you can do, maybe gives you some games and activities you could do. Think about the cool things you could just create, little mini games for people to do around your playground, right? Just race down the slide or see, how long you can swing, or I don't know, just making up stuff like that. But just the ability, and I think that helps with AI long term too. If you have a personal AI and knows that you have kids and knows that they love playgrounds or pools, if it can go to see a whole page about a playground or pool, for sure that's got to mean something. Versus just a bullet point list of I have a playground, right? And then information and trust pages, rates and packages, all the things, FAQ, reviews and testimonials, talking about your people, et cetera, et cetera. And then, so I said I have my website copy now, and I really want to niche down further with some of my marketing efforts, both on the website and off in social media and Google Ads. What I don't know is how much to focus on which group of people. Are they a large enough audience for me to spend my time on them? If so, how much? For example, is it enough to have a page for Gen Z, or do I also need that to speak their slang, words, headlines in their language? Do a deep dive for me. I don't know how long we got into this, Greg, or how much. Did we get into this a lot?
I
think we ran through most of this, didn't we?
We started into it. I can't tell you though right now how distracted I am after seeing up above there about how deep to niche. How deep to niche. All I can hear in my head is the Bee Gees singing "How Deep Is Your Niche" now, and it's like a spoof song. I'm completely distracted by that at this point.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. It's my fault. My brain. It's a desperate, ugly place in there. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring you guys into it.
That's okay. We'll skim this real quick. So we'll do weekend families. How big is each pool? Yeah, we did go through this. This is talking about the local area, right?
Yeah.
So within a 90-minute drive, all the different cities, 2 million people. Seasonal social places are the same radius. Where are the cabin caper couples? Addressable households. Again, I don't know how accurate this is for the area, but 160,000 RV owning households, 14% of all people. Waiting list only for their park specifically, right? They already have a full 70,000 cabin curious households, extrapolated from 49% of new campers being Gen Z, millennial, and rustic lodging and tent data. 240,000 workers within 90 minutes. Obviously, all of them aren't remote working, but 35K multi-generational families planning a reunion each year from Stats Canada and KOA multi-generational travel data. And then a percentage of Willow Lake's bookable nights. I want to get your take on this, and so I'm just reading it again real quick. Scott, percentage of Willow Lake's bookable nights they could realistically fill. 45% of your transient RV nights, Thursday to Sunday for weekend families. 100% of seasonal inventory already sold out. 70% of your 4 cabin nights, Friday to Sunday and some midweek from the cabin capers. 50% of midweek, Sunday to Thursday RV nights for mobile office nomads. And again, they're in an area with they're centrally located between 3 big cities. But I think that might be possible. Yep. 65% of cottage nights and 10% of adjacent RV nights. So household is population times average 2.5 persons, flat or rounded. Sources RV ownership 14%, Canadian campers 65%, Gen Z millennial share 49-50, camper remote work 23%. So what do you think of that before we move on, Scott? Is that fairly accurate, or would you challenge?
I think so. It's at least ballpark. So yeah.
Okay. So then we had dollar weighted priority stack. Weekend families are 40% of potential revenue, and it goes through those. Channel to persona fit and recommended split. So then it talks about SEM budgets and all this. Again, I wouldn't take this all at face value, but it's a much better starting point than most people probably are at. For reunions, nomads, how to split your budget, on-site SEO, email flows, LinkedIn ads. Do you need gen-specific slang? No. Tone switch. Don't slang drown. Is that a Gen Z thing that I don't know about? Probably. I'm too old. Why not full slang? Authenticity risk, cross-generational site. Same homepage, must not alienate retirees. SEO impact, keyword intent language is neutral, not slang. What to do instead? Keep the core voice friendly, concise, and emoji light. Swaps, say weekend vibes instead of campground atmosphere. No stress booking versus frictionless CX. So all that kind of stuff, right? Maybe you create a page for that. How far to go with persona pages and content. Tier 1, build this season, families, cabins, and nomads. Tier 2, next season, reunion calculator. That would be interesting. Seasonal loyalty portal, choose your site, interactive selector. Measurement cheat sheet. So funnel stage. Okay, we can go through all that. Action plan, 30 to 90 days. Okay, then we did this a little bit, Greg. So we said, great, what about cat? I think we focused on this.
We did, right at the end.
CapEx improvements to improve for this year and subsequent years. We're targeting my personas or even increasing these personas that might come. Be detailed and thoughtful as you did above so I can understand and break it down. So then it talks about EV chargers for spring 2025, enterprise mesh Wi-Fi, gives all that stuff. We're not going to go through it all again. And then I think this is supposed to be a table. It just messed up, but we went through all this. 2025 tightens the sell to existing personas. Immediate fixes to Wi-Fi, EV, and kid comfort equals booking friction removal, and then more as we go forward. So that's where we kind of landed on, Scott. So where do you think we should take it from here?
Wow.
We did a lot, right?
That's a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, where would you take it from there? Because you've, really, broken down each of those personas based on what their preferences are, what they do. You've put in your action plan. It's quite thorough. So
it actually impressed me. It really impressed me with how thorough it was.
Yeah,
it's kind of like I'm drawing a little bit of a blank of what I would do next. Do research. It's like that's my solution to everything.
Let's try, okay, what else am I missing that would complete or complement everything I am trying to accomplish above? What other questions should I be asking, etc.?
And I was going to add something and we can do that after, while this is thinking, is to think about, what am I going to need? What resources would I need to implement all this? What's my budget? What's my staffing? What do I need?
Well, there you go. Yeah, it's talking about staffing. Below is a gap finder checklist, ideas, blind spots, and strategic questions that round out the buyer persona marketing and CapEx plans we built so far. Skim the bold subtitles to zero in on the parts that matter most for you. So what to consider? Staffing for new personas. A glamping dome guest, so this is why it matters for the people listening to the podcast. A glamping dome guest expects hotel-style touch points. Nomads may need tech help mid-Zoom. Key questions to ask now. Do we have a guest experience lead on duty, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.? Do we train front desk on remote worker troubleshooting? Okay. Housekeeping cadence for cabins, domes, and cottages. It matters because of faster turns equal higher ADR and happier millennial guests who book short notice stays. Key questions to ask now. How many same-day turns at 11 a.m. can we support before quality drops? Contactless arrival. Gen Z and nomads prefer gate or PIN plus SMS guide. Reduces Friday check-in queue for families. That's interesting. You often talk about contactless check-in is why I say it's interesting, but maybe you don't do that for everybody. Maybe you segment it, right? Do we have a door code map link rules PDF automated through booking.com and our booking engine? Probably not, but that's easy to set up, at least from my perspective. Accessibility upgrades, wheelchair accessible cabin and washroom open the door to multi-generational reunions and government grants. Which 2026 projects could easily hit CSA B650? I feel like that's a Canadian thing. After hours issue resolution, Wi-Fi or power hiccups at 10 p.m. or a one-star review whisk. Is there a 24/7 texting line plus SOP with escalation tree? There for sure could be a 24/7 AI with an escalation path, right?
Yep.
Is this kind of what we want? Measure. I feel like it is.
It is.
Measurement and analytics gaps. The layer is okay. So we don't need to go through all that. Dynamic pricing rules. So attribution. You guys can pause this if you want to see all this stuff. Guest lifetime value. Dynamic pricing rules. 10% drop midweek for nomads. Mesh Wi-Fi, on-site sensors, marketing and content gaps, short-form video pipeline, TikTok and Reels fuel cabin caper discovery, who scripts, shoots, and edits 1 20-second clip per week, budget, influencer user-generated content strategy, impact. This is really good. I like this. Impact soft trust element, heavier with Gen Z than brand ads. Offer a 2-night barter stays for micro creators, 10 to 50,000 followers in Ontario. Contract and hashtag guidelines. Local SEO and Google business profile posts. Converts last-minute RVers on Highway 401 exits. Our Google business profile Q&A answered with persona-friendly copy. Weekly post cadence. Email drip automation. Revenue diversification gaps. Corporate midweek retreats, 8 to 25 packs using cottage plus pavilion. Fits nomads and reunions. Forward-looking questions. After the pavilion build, can we bundle catering plus AV at 85 to 110 per person? Is it PP per day? Is that per person? Per person per day, right?
Yep.
Okay. Day pass revenue, mini golf plus splash pad. Locals bolster off-peak spend. What's the local family day trip demand within 30 kilometers? Additional insurance cost. Premium service add-ons, pre-stocked fridge, linen rental, kayak delivery, cabins, domes, and reunions for the personas. What's the operational friction versus incremental margin? This is really good. Community partnerships and PR gaps. Partnership ideas. So this is again local to this campground, right? Oxford County Tourism Board packages, pooled ad dollars plus backlink SEO. Can we co-fund a cheese trail plus cabin stay itinerary? I like that. Also, I like cheese, but local. Who doesn't like cheese? This is like donuts. Everybody likes donuts, right? Do you know anybody who doesn't like donuts? What?
I'll eat them, but I'm not gonna go find them. I don't.
Okay, but you'll eat them. You don't hate donuts.
Yeah, but I'll eat a lot of things once. I mean,
okay, but like, do you know anybody who hates donuts?
Yeah, my wife. She absolutely despises them.
Why? From a weight perspective, or just a taste?
No, she just like it. To her, it just tastes like she might as well just be spooning sugar directly into her mouth, and she's very, very sugar sensitive.
I don't know, man. Okay, so
there's
a reason. There's a good reason.
You asked, and you shouldn't have. Just continue.
No, I mean, there's a good reason for sugar sensitivity. Like, you just don't know somebody who hates that for no good reason, right? Because they're all probably in prison. It's the same way for like the cheese. Who doesn't like cheese? Except for the lactose intolerant, you have a really good reason.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing with sugar sensitivity.
I agree with you there on the cheese thing.
Whatever. Donuts are a thing too. Although, seriously, the last 4 times I've said that, I said that to David Basler one time at a conference. He's like, I hate donuts.
So there you go.
It's been 4 times in a row. Like, I don't understand how these people got out of prison. Sorry. Seriously though, like, donuts are donuts. Like, I'm not craving a sugary donut every morning when I wake up. Of course not. But like, donuts are really delicious, especially if you get those like craft, whatever. Anyway, okay. Local coffee shop pop-up at Dairy Hall. So this is Dairy Hall is a building they have, Scott. Hooks, Nomads and Millennials, Rev Share Percent, Power Water Logistics, Electric Utilities EV Charger Grant cuts CapEx. Which provider, Enbridge Hydro One, offers the highest rebate this year? Universities and coding boot camps, remote week. That's a good idea. Blocks of midweek bookings in spring and fall. Do we pitch code from Camp Week to Conestoga or Western's continuing ed departments? That's interesting. Sustainability and ESG gaps. I don't know how much of this we want to cover. Risk compliance and finance. Cyber insurance. Emergency ops plans for bad weather. Next generation strategic questions to keep asking. Product market fit loop. Which new persona showed up that we didn't plan for? E.g. remote learning families or e-bike tours. Displacement risk. What is the 3-year pipeline of competing campgrounds adding glamping domes within 100 kilometers? How do we stay differentiated? Tech adoption. When does level 3 DC fast charging become must-have for Class C RVs? Macro demand shifts. If remote work pullback continues, there you go, Scott. Does our nomad segment shrink? How do we repurpose Dairy Hall as co-warehousing for cottage guests? Succession and exit strategy. If family owned, are we grooming managers or exploring REIT sale in 8 to 10 years?
By the way, that topic is something that came up a lot this last week.
Which one?
Succession planning
and exit strategy.
Yep. That whole idea of, what do you sell? Do you try that? Anyway, that's a hot topic right now because a lot of the campground owners are getting older and they've been around for a long time. So it's a is that going to result in more consolidation and stuff? So
what do you think what was the general consensus there?
That's going to result in more consolidation because what's happening is these investor groups are going around and they're finding these parks and they're buying them up.
Yeah. Do you think all these investors who are buying all these parks, obviously they have really smart people. They have really good plans behind them, do you think they're going to be as successful as they think they're going to be?
Probably not.
Is there a danger there to like, and I'm not an investor in real estate and all that kind of stuff. What's the danger there? Like, what if they aren't as successful? Like, even if they're profitable, what if they aren't as successful as the investment plan says?
That they just bail. And you have campgrounds on the market. You have shuttered campgrounds. Like, we were talking.
That's what I was pointing at, the shuttered campgrounds. Okay.
Yeah. But kind of like last week, talking about the gigantic campgrounds with 3,000 sites. Is that going to be like, an abandoned mall or a scene out of The Last of Us? It's like,
don't say anything about Last of Us. I haven't seen season 2.
Oh, let me tell you, I'm all caught up. So
I have to go back and watch. There was a joke in season 1 that, remember when he was like really injured and he was laying on the floor somewhere and she thought he was going to die. Like, there was some joke that they told, and I can't remember what it was, but it made me laugh out loud. It was like the funniest joke I've heard in years.
It was dad jokes. She had a book of dad jokes.
Yeah, but it was something I think he said to her or something, right? I don't know. Anyway, I got to go back and watch that. But so, okay. What else? Anything else for succession and exit strategy you wanted to add?
No, I just threw that out just because it seems like it's definitely a topic of conversation, and there were some people at the conference who are investors who were, kind of talking about it, but also it was, it's something the industry's got to deal with, and especially a lot of the people who got in when it was really expensive. So we could have that, and we could have, anyway, I won't get sidetracked, but
how long do you think, I mean, I don't want to get sidetracked either, but how long, like, what would be a timeline that you would imagine for something like that? Like, when could we start to see that happening? If forget about whether the economy goes up or down, if the economy stays where it is right now, and people, which many did, not all investment groups, but many did, overpaid. When is a realistic timeline where we could start to see campgrounds in danger of being shuttered?
Boy, I'm not an economist.
Neither am I.
But
so
I'm
pure
thinking
speculation.
It truly depends on the type of campground they've invested in and how much of a rebound we get. If they continue to just if they're not flexible, if they're very rigid, and don't anticipate the changes in the next couple of years,
or if they're just flat, right? Because it depends on your investors and how much they're demanding from you, and where their capital could go to make more money.
Exactly. So, I mean, you might start to see the hints of it within 5 years. I think maybe less, because a lot of these folks aren't very patient. So, I think you could start to see some of that pop up.
I wonder it really depends on the group and how well they bought, because I got to make sure that I don't say anything too
specific about
Yeah, there are groups out there that are clearly, and this is not in any way like isolated to the RV park or campground, outdoor hospitality industry, right? People do this all across.
Just like buying stocks. It's the same thing.
But this is specific, I think, to real estate investment, but maybe it does pertain to this. But so they buy a park and they buy it after raising several rounds of funds, right? And each investor is told maybe at this level, you're going to get this much payback. And at this level, you've got a preferred whatever. And at this level, it's a little bit lower. But they raise all this money, they buy this campground, and they make a bad buy. And sometimes they do it and they go, we know this is a bad buy. It's all right. Because now what we're going to do is survive off of this raise and then go buy another one so that we can raise again and survive off of that. And these are not...
That sounds like a pyramid scheme.
And it's not, but it's not far off. And there are very few groups out there. Let's be totally clear on this.
That do that.
Very few groups out there that I've seen that are doing this, but there are definitely groups out there that are doing this. They're none of the really highly visible. If you go on to LinkedIn, you see a few groups way more than you do others.
Yeah.
I don't, none of them to my knowledge are doing that. They're all really building legit base books of campgrounds that are probably going to scale really well and then
Sure,
attract
but
a
like
larger
they still
investment.
could miss.
Yeah, of course. You're always going to have misses.
Or you
But-
could have the investors do the thing that Scott and I were talking about, like, hey, listen, like, I mean, China tariffs are like, obviously it isn't going to be a short-term impact, is this, right? It's just completely making this up.
Yeah.
But China tariffs are down, and now like interest rates on the 10-year are up to, I don't know, they're 4.4, but let's just make it up and say they're up to 4.8 or 5%. Like now, like I want to just put my monies in treasuries. Does that happen? Is that a risk, or is there a contractual obligation to prevent them from doing so for X number of years? Or
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
and I don't know
just
what
know
the
that I
ROI
have
they're
seen.
promising is either, right? Like obviously
Yes.
every group is different and all the things, right?
Correct.
But is it like 3? Is it 5? Is it 10%? Is it? I don't know.
It all depends on the group. I have, I've seen different layers and levels of promised paybacks and stuff. And again, I don't want to get into it too much about
I don't want
specifics, but I will tell you that there are definitely, and if you've got a keen eye and you look at the parks that some of these groups buy and you watch how fast, they're buying 15 or 20 of them per calendar year every year for the last 3 years, be careful where you put your money. There should be warning signs, because if you talk to people, I would tell you flat out, it's almost impossible to find that many solid parks that fit all your criteria in a calendar year. That's tough. And that's part of what I do, is advise people on what the value and, what a solid market value, what you should pay for a park, or what you should sell the park for. That's part of what I do for both buyers and sellers. And yeah, if you see somebody and they've got a new one closing every couple of weeks, they probably don't have a secret.
The same as like the people. Again, this is such a fine line, and anything that comes out of my mouth, like I don't want anybody to interpret as like I'm picking on you or I'm insulting you. I'm not insulting anybody. I'm just talking. But like the people who are, let's call them good investors and bad investors. The good investors are going to easily see that.
Right.
The people who are in trouble are the day traders of the stock market, right? Who are like oh wow, they promised me 50% and I can only get 10% over here. I want 50%. Let me just, right?
Yep.
Again, not a lot of groups that are attempting to do that at all.
No, but they are out there.
There are some, yeah.
Yep.
What do you think, Scott? Or do you want to flip back to niche? I think we should flip back to niche, unless you have something to add.
Yeah, we kind of
when it comes to the economic stuff, I'm definitely not an expert in that area.
Well, none of us are. Well, maybe Greg is, because he consults on it.
Well, you understand it a little bit better than I do. So
yeah, I mean, I only understand it because I obsessively read all about it. But like, so how does this? But how does all that impact? So let's say you're an investor in an investment group, or you're an investment group, or you're a small mom and pop, whatever else. How does everything that we just went through here with niches and buyer personas and who you should market to and who you shouldn't, does this impact at all? And it will for some groups and it won't for other groups. I know is the answer. But I feel like for most groups, they're not doing what we just did, not even anywhere close, because primarily they don't need to, because the bank isn't asking for it, right? Or the investors aren't asking for it, generally speaking.
Yeah, in some, yes, and also a lot of those groups that have compiled a really nice portfolio of parks by now, they've got their own data, their own metrics. They're that kid in the classroom who's like, you try to look over his shoulder, maybe get an answer. He's like, you get your own, man. They've got it figured out. They've got it really well figured out. And it may not be what would work for the industry, for industry wide, but boy, it works well for them. They've got their own model and they're really kicking ass with it.
Okay, where else do we want to go here? Visa. Anything else we want to touch on the niche down?
I think if I had to put a bow on the whole conversation, that whole exercise that was just done, I don't want to sound like a taskmaster, if you will, or anything. But the bottom line is is essentially you need to do that like every year.
Yep.
Some version of it. Maybe it's a revision, because things are going to change. You know, the market's going to change. It's going to continue to change. The guest profile is going to change. All these things are going to, you know, travel trends are going to change. So maybe you don't have to do the whole thing from scratch every year, but you need to revisit it every year. It needs to be part of strategic planning. It needs to be a part of what you do. So do it the first time is the hardest. Greg can probably really attest to this much better than I can. But you know, you do it that first time and then you make adjustments, but it's not a static approach. It doesn't just sit there. Just like your business plan needs to be updated every year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And AI makes it even easier. Jessica, if you go over to the right-hand side all the way over and click on chat, Scott said we had a comment all the way to the right on the right-hand bar. Go all the way to the right-hand side near the clips. Like, see all the icons, like design, captions, whatever else? To the right, even further than that. Click on chat. Go all the way down to the bottom, and chat's on the bottom. And then if you click that, click that show, it'll show. Yeah, it's like a giant comment. I think it's going to get truncated a little bit. And then close that private chat there so I can see that. So Randy Hendrickson, everybody. Well, does everybody know Randy? Can I say that?
I do.
Yeah. Who doesn't? He's
yeah. So he says, "Hey y'all, great show and great info. I think I'm up to 237 comments I'd like to make. Haha, Randy, that's why we have a show." No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, I didn't want to say that. I know Randy. Hopefully Randy just knows I'm just messing with him. Fucking with him. I almost censored myself like fireside chats. On this topic, smart investors aren't buying a 100-site RV park today to have it as a 100-site RV park in 3 years. It will be a 75-site RV park with 15 cottages. That's interesting. And is there more? Hold on.
There's a lot more.
Yeah, there's a lot more.
So let me just leave it off that I'll read it. It won't show on the whole thing. Or park 75-site RV park with 15 cottages or park models and 10 other glamping accommodations. They are buying 100-site blank canvases to reposition to other complementary outdoor hospitality assets at demonstrably higher ADR. RV occupancy and ADR is pretty much flat everywhere in aggregate, so they're looking for the lift from alternative accommodations and different consumers, which again is very, very smart, right? And we've talked about this on the show before. Not what Randy's bringing up. We didn't know like he's in that investment world, and like he's got a lot of smart insights and thoughts into that like none of us have any idea. Well, I don't have any idea about. Maybe you guys do a little bit, right?
I don't.
But like that's what we've long said is you got to think outside the box. You got to talk about like where am I going to be in a few years? What am I purchasing this land for? Like what am I going to do with it? You got to have a plan for all that stuff. Like in your experience, sticking generically, Greg, are the people that you've consulted with, and we'll just assume they're in the thousands because of course they are the people you've consulted with, do they have deep future plans to completely redo what they're purchasing? Or are they, because I think there's a lot of investment groups and there obviously are different ones that like Randy is pointing out, right? But a lot of what I see is just like buy an RV park, maintain it, and then like make renovations to the store, do small amenity improvements. And maybe they're just holding it close to the chest and they're not talking about it publicly, which is, of course, what I would do and smart people would do, right? But are there people out there that have these plans that you know of that are sweeping changes?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because it depends on, are we talking about the individual owner-operator who maybe just has one park or maybe a couple nearby one another? Are we talking
I think we're talking about let's stick with investors here.
If we're talking about investors, I think you would be surprised at the number of the, not the bigger groups, again, not the ones that you go on LinkedIn, you see those 4 or 5 ones that you see all the time. They got it. Okay. But maybe some of the smaller ones. And I am always, so first of all, I'll say this. I am astonished at how often I hear a name and I'll say, well, what's that? And someone will say, well, that's a group. They've got 14 parks. Fuck, I've never heard of them.
Yeah.
Never heard of them. Where the hell did they come from? 14 parks it's not a ton, but that's substantial. Wow, that's interesting. And I mean, that happens fairly regularly that I hear about an investment group that's got 14, 15 parks, had no idea they existed. I think you would be surprised to find out what the number of them that don't have strategic executable plans in place, knowing where they want to go, and also how few of them have future proofing built in, where they're to what Scott said before, their SOPs and their business plan, and this exercise that we're doing, right? If they were to do it, would they do it again next year when there's new data out so that those buyer personas were better informed? There are a good number of them out there that are doing exactly what they're kind of going by the seat of their pants. Hey, this is the new shiny thing. Let's go chase that at this campground, and let's do this thing at this other campground. And at campground A, the pull-through sites worked really well. Let's put them at campground B, even though they're not even close to the same type of park. There are a decent number of those groups out there that are kind of flying by the seat of their pants instead of doing what Randy nailed it. You buy it, and it's a living, breathing thing.
Who are doing this, right?
Yeah.
And that's my thing. Like, I think it's easy. No, it's not easy. That's the wrong word. I think that if you're coming into this with a plan like that, which clearly at least a handful of people are, I don't think it's widespread like you do, Greg. But if you're coming into it with a plan like that, then I think you're disclosing that to your investors. You're saying, this is the short-term plan. This is the long-term plan. You've got to see my vision. We've got to get here. It's not going to be a quarterly report thing in the stock market. You got to be willing to be patient, but we're going to do really cool things. And here's what our vision is, right? That's maybe a Steve Jobs mentality for investment, more than anything else. But I think the majority of people, like we were talking about this on Fireside Chats earlier, there's kind of three types of people. There's the people who will leave the ship parked in the harbor because it's safe. This is, to be clear, this is an analysis that the owner of Tree Bones Resort by Big Sur shared with me, so I can't take credit for it. But leaves the ship floating in the harbor because that's the safest place to be. There, and then there's the person who goes down the different shipping lane or takes it down a different path and steers the ship in whatever direction they want and creates something new. I added a third one to his. I said, well, I think there's a lot of investment groups who are moving the ship out of the harbor, but they're only taking the safe route to Europe that's been traveled thousands of times before and maybe steering a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right with different ideas. But I think sometimes some of those investment groups are constrained by the need to do ROI and thus can't veer too far off course. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Which would then hamper them if they needed to pivot into something like Randy's saying in the future to deliver the ROI, right? Because then you have a little bit less flexibility. You'd have to then start from scratch by going to your investors and saying, I know you bought into this story and I know I told you I was going to get this return, but something changed here, or I think I can do better here, or I need to flip it this way. And so now I need to come back to you, and either I need more money or I need more time or I need more patience or I need whatever. And here's a different story. That's harder, isn't it? That's much harder, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The cash call is never a call anybody wants to make. Yeah. Hey, this whole thing we sold you on didn't work out, but we think we've got a way to do it. We just need an extra $500,000. Come on, pony it up. Yeah. That's nobody wants to do that, but those calls happen. And it's because they got in, they just started steering out of the harbor and then they went, shit, which way were we going again? The wind is which, and the GPS isn't working.
Well, not even that. Even though they have a really good plan, right? But then the wind blows them off course. A lot of these groups who don't have this master plan, like Randy's talking about, have really good plans still on paper and based on how the market has been and based on how the market should continue to behave. But there's a lot of shit that's changing that's gonna, right? Whether it's the economy or whether it's all the crazy shit we talk about flying cars and how that's going to change where people go and how people camp and right. That's 10, 15, 20 years out in some cases with some of that stuff. But that's going to change. Our industry is going to change a lot. Even if you just talk about autonomous self-driving RVs, that for sure will come. Yeah. Whether they're smaller initially or whatever else, the ability for those things to pull off quick charge at a Tesla station or whatever else and just keep driving while you sleep or while you relax or while you do whatever. Imagine how many journey campgrounds along the way, I pick on KOA, but overnight campgrounds along the way that are no longer necessary. I'm not saying those journey campgrounds are the typical investment target. They usually aren't, right? But
yeah, they're usually bigger than the 100 site park Randy's talking about. Usually.
Yeah.
But not always. It depends on where's that 100 site park and what's the ADR.
Well, but I think that's
If it's big enough, they'll buy
what
that.
Randy, and I'm going to put words in Randy's mouth. He can comment and yell at me on here if he decides I'm wrong, which I almost certainly am. But like, I think what he's saying more is like, there are some really smart investors who are not focusing on the number of sites because long term they don't give a fuck about the number of sites because they're not trying to get traditional RV park guests in here and focusing on the ADR of the 150 sites. They can turn 100 sites into X whatever 50, 75 glamping units for $300 to $500 a night. That's like, I don't need 150 sites anymore.
Yep, one glamping unit replaces 4, 5, 6 campsites depending on your ADR. Yeah.
And I think that's a really smart play, but I think that's a long-term, not hard to execute, but requires a lot more vision and requires a lot more belief in the person executing it, which many investors aren't willing to be as patient or long-term locked up their capital for that to happen. So I think it's going to be much rarer, but for sure, those people that have that vision, because if you have that vision and you've sold them on something, like you don't even have to sell them on like this is the exact thing I'm going to do in 5 years or 10 years, right? You can say like, we know the industry is changing. It is going to glamping or going to this or going to 3D printed cabins we were talking about on the show earlier. Super cool, made out of recycled bottles by a company called Azure, right? We know it's going to be different. We think that RV sites are going to continue, RV sales might continue to drop. We don't want to narrow ourselves into this niche, whatever. So we know it's going to change. We have a plan for whatever way that could change. It might change here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ways, but whatever way it is, we've got this land and we know it's going to be high-end glamping accommodations of some regard, targeting these kinds of people. Like you kind of have that flexibility then to see how the market develops before you execute, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that's what the good groups are doing. They are future proofing for that, for sure.
I don't know that I've talked to many of those groups.
Maybe you're having the wrong conversation.
Again, I'm not saying that people don't have really good plans for the future.
Yeah, and they're probably not telling you, like you said,
Randy, right? Talking about that are like, I'm gonna flip this RV site into something completely new. I haven't talked to very many of those people, and maybe obviously maybe they're just not telling me their plans, which is very realistically possible.
Yeah,
I need to know that.
I would say that I certainly have. The well-educated groups, the groups that are doing it well, they know what they're doing. They're ready to pivot when the market. They're seriously. They watch the data. They listen to people like Scott. Yeah, they're definitely paying attention and they have to. But it's those other ones that are sort of running at it rapidly, and yeah, they're just trying to live off that raise and then get to the next purchase so they can raise again. There's definitely some of that going on.
How long does it take to pivot that though? Like,
depends. If you're talking about like switching from RV sites to cabins, an afternoon, just park it on the site, set it down, throw skirting around.
Yeah, but that's not those cabins aren't the ones that are going to be $300 to $500 a night and go from 100 sites to what Randy's talking about. How long does that take?
What is Randy talking about?
Reimagining of the resort.
75. So, that takes some time. Yeah, you're talking about a master planning process with an engineer.
That's what I'm talking about, right? Those are the groups that I'm talking about. I haven't talked to a lot about who have those plans, and maybe some of them do, like we talked about. We don't need to rehash that.
And Randy's got another comment on.
Did
he tell me I was full of shit? Click on the comment.
Brian, you should shut your trap. It's so annoying to hear.
Sounds like Randy.
I know it doesn't.
That's basically every conversation I have with Randy.
No, it says.
Investors have a short attention span when it comes to returns, so they're looking for the repositioning upside plan at the outset.
Yep.
Huge mistake is investor not having a coherent plan, to Greg's earlier point. But when sponsors on deals forecast a 15% lift in rates when the industry is flat, that's a huge danger.
Yes.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people who are forecasting a 15% lift in rates. Not maybe this year, but like coming out of COVID for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And if anybody out there is looking to invest in one, if you see that that pro forma forecast and it shows you 15% increase in that first year that the investor's buying it.
What's the typical pitch? Like, what's
Probably
the
not.
without giving away specifics? What's the like average weighted pitch of what people are selling investors on?
There isn't one. It all over the place. All of it. It depends
Like,
on the park and the market.
What's a reasonable, smart, intelligent group pitching?
Nah, I'm not gonna.
Like,
Sorry,
but it can't be
No.
higher than 15% lift in rates or return on. What's the average
but
ROI?
it can. Like if they buy the right value add park,
Okay,
and they go,
that's true.
this park is completely undervalued. That's why I'm saying like that's
Oh,
impossible
no.
to put in. If they tell you we're occupancy is gonna grow 25% for the next 10 years.
All right. What maybe a
I don't
better
know how they're going to
question
do that.
is
Maybe.
if I'm an investor and I'm going to a group and I'm saying like, all right, I saw your pitch on LinkedIn or your email or you were at a conference. I'm ready to invest with you. I believe in you, whatever else. What are they saying that money return ROI is for those people? Is what I'm like over in 5 years at your exit strategy, how much money are you going to make as an ROI?
Yeah,
Forget
that
about
again.
rates, forget specific.
That's a tough one because it does. It really depends on the specific deal on that specific asset.
Okay.
Yeah, it really does. It's just too hard to. And I am not trying to be cagey. Like I don't want to
I know.
disclose
I'm
anything.
just trying to think of like we talked about treasury
I know.
bonds earlier. We talked about the stock market. You look at gold. You look at Bitcoin. Like these are a lot of savvy investors out there. So I'm just trying. Where I'm really going with this is like, at what point do you say like maybe the RV park isn't the thing that's going to generate me the most return on investment? Is really where I was trying to go with it, right?
But see, even that depends because some people are happy with 3 to 5% from their money if it's low risk and they're able to
You can get
put
that
it
in
in and
treasuries. That's much lower risk than trusting an investment group.
you can, but some people like to invest in real estate. It's really hard. It's really hard to put any kind of a number on it.
But are you? Yeah,
For me,
and
anyway.
I'm not going to focus on the number. But are you investing in real estate, or are you investing in the company that owns the real estate? I think it's two different things. It's just like when you look at, I was talking to my girlfriend about stocks the other day. Like when you look at investing in a stock and it's a long-term hold for you, which most things you should invest in my opinion, should be long-term holds. But when you're not just looking at the company and the product, you're looking at the person executing that company and product, the manager, the team, the owner, the visionary.
Yeah, a little of both.
Right?
Yeah.
A little of both.
Yeah, it's a little of both because you got to know how the asset's going to be run and maintained for sure.
Yeah.
But you are investing in that asset. And again, it all depends too on how the deal's structured. But yeah, you're still investing in the asset, but you've got to have the confidence that the people who are buying it, who you're giving the money to, are going to maintain it right, run it right, develop it right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger, like, I want to believe in the person at the top is what I want.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I don't, again, I think that pool is for sure bigger than the people who have a plan who have talked to me, right? I would say that's probably 50-50 though, in the groups I've talked to, of the people who are just like, we're acquiring and we're going to do this, versus the people who are like, I would believe in you and put my money with you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Scott is getting bored over here. We don't want to bore Scott. So how can we correlate this, Greg, into something that Scott can talk about?
I think since we're up against dogs, there's nothing you can do, because like, what's better than your dogs? I'm sorry, but four-leggeds trump two-leggeds for me all day long. So I can't. I would be like, honestly, I don't know why he's still here. I'd be like, dude, if you're going to get to your dogs, can I come?
Like, come on, Greg.
No.
I suck at this. No, you asked the wrong guy. I'm like, if it's dogs, I see you, Scott. Have a good time. I wish I was you.
No, it was a great show. I really enjoyed listening to this. I wasn't bored. I just don't have that much to offer on this topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to pivot to the last thing, because we published it we've talked about it for 2 weeks now and we haven't got to it. Just the AI agents for Visa, Mastercard stuff, real quick. But if you need to hop, Scott, go ahead.
I kind of do, but don't I always? I'm always a stick in the mud. So
no, it's fine.
That's not.
Now it's gonna be dogs in the mud.
You just have a life. I don't have a life. That's the only difference, right?
All right, guys. Good show. It was awesome.
All right, so
I enjoyed it.
My camera.
Thanks for listening in, Randy. I have a call with Randy on Friday. Anyway, so
Oh, right on. Tell him we said hello.
I will do that. Take care.
See you, Scott.
So if we look at like this is what we're talking about with like, so we talked about online shopping briefly before.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is introducing shopping into its search. It's a major take on, competition-wise with Google. They've said they're not going to do advertising. This is a separate kind of thing. I think we talked about this on a previous show. They said they're not going to do advertising right away, but they might do affiliate links. So they're not going to let you pay for position one, but like whatever. And so now you've got these articles, right? So these are a couple weeks old now, I think. April 30th, 2025 is this one. But Visa wants to give artificial intelligence agents your credit card. Artificial intelligence agents are supposed to be more than chatbots. The tech industry has spent months pitching AI personal assistants that know what you want and can do real work on your behalf. So far, they're not doing much. Visa hopes to change that by giving them your credit card. I can imagine all the people who are groaning and rolling their eyes at this. Like, no way. But it's actually like, and I won't even read this for a second, but it's actually the same thing. It's similar as Apple Pay and Google Pay when they first came out. I don't know if anybody realizes how those things work, but they actually tokenize your payment. So when you pay with your phone or, your watch or whatever else, like the store gets a spinned up virtual version of your credit card that is only valid for that transaction. And it's way more secure than the store having your actual credit card number.
Yep, right on.
So this stuff could actually be a boon for security. Set a budget and some preferences, and these AI agents, successors to ChatGPT and its chatbot peers, like it will be ChatGPT, right? Could find and buy you a sweater, weekly groceries, or an airplane ticket. We think this could be really important, says Jack Forstall, Visa's chief product and strategy officer in an interview. Transformational on the order of magnitude of the advent of e-commerce itself, for sure. Like, again, we've talked about the robots are going to shop for you.
Yep.
Visa announced Wednesday it's partnering with a group of leading AI chatbot developers, among them U.S. companies Anthropic, who does Claude, Microsoft, OpenAI, and Perplexity, and France's Mistral, which is a really big AI company on the level of, probably not to the level of OpenAI, but like Anthropic probably in France, to connect their AI systems to Visa's payment network. Visa is also working with IBM, online payment company Stripe, and phone maker Samsung on the initiative. Pilot projects begin Wednesday. So already began, I don't know what April 30th was as a day of the week, but have been in operation for maybe a week and a half now. Ahead of more widespread usage expected next year. I think it's going to probably move quicker than that if the AI networks have their push and shove with it, right?
For sure.
San Francisco payment processing company is betting what seems, and I'm just reading this for the podcast viewers more than anything, is betting that what seems futuristic now could become a convenient alternative to our most mundane shopping tasks in the near future. It has spent the past 6 months working with AI developers to address technical obstacles that must be overcome before the average consumer is going to use it. For emerging AI companies, Visa's backing could also boost their chances of competing with tech giants Amazon and Google, which dominate digital commerce and are developing their own AI agents. Let's skim the rest of this. Visa sees itself as having a key role in giving AI agents easier and trusted access to the cash they need to make purchases. Many consumers are already getting used to digital payment systems such as Apple Pay that turn their phones into a credit card. A similar process of vetting someone's digital credentials would authorize AI agents to work on a customer's behalf. In a way, Forstell says, must assure buyers, banks, and merchants that the transactions are legitimate and that Visa will handle disputes. So other shopping experiences, et cetera. So this is like we've talked about, we've talked many times about like Operator and how it's, going to run your computer. There's, Manus from the Chinese that are going to do the same thing. There's lots of these coming out. Google's probably going to introduce one of these at the I/O conference. I think it's maybe next week is their I/O conference, 20th, 21st of May or something like that. But there's a lot of hints they're going to introduce things that operate your computer and your browser. These are coming quickly. They already are here in many cases. But where they roadblock is signing into sites with your username and password. And where they roadblock is filling in your payment details. So if you get a Visa or MasterCard, if you get a company like, for example, like 1Password or LastPass that are these password managers who can autofill your passwords securely, or where you're not even dealing with passwords, you're dealing with passkeys or fingerprint authentication or whatever. If you have your own personal AI agent that could store your fingerprint or store your master password or store your credit card information that's encrypted, then this stuff takes off really fast, right?
Yep.
Everything is about convenience in the consumer's eyes. Everything is. They will give up privacy, not
Oh,
all of it,
absolutely.
but a lot of it for convenience. And man, this stuff is going to change a lot of things. And if you think it's just limited right now to the shopping on, for right now it is for watches and toasters and travel and sporting goods and stuff. If you think that's not coming to hotels,
Procurement is gone. This will end it. If you got a job in procurement, you better be paying a lot of attention to this and figuring out how it works, because it's the only way you're going to keep your job. Because imagine, so your AI gets, I'm assuming it gets to see your purchase history.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
I have to
over time.
Yeah.
If I had this when here comes the old man fist. If I had this when I was if I still had this, if I had this when I owned my park, 90% of my ordering would have been handled. It knows what I need, how much I need of it, and when I need it, and can look for the best deal. And
in less than 5 years, it'll be there.
And can look for alternatives. Now I'm just checking in every once in a while and go, oh yeah, it ordered the stuff for the store. Okay, it ordered the stuff for the special event weekend. It ordered the supplies that we need at this point in the year for housekeeping. It ordered the bedding.
And it'll know all that, right? It'll be hooked into your system. It'll be hooked into your POS, assuming our wonderful PMS systems can get on top of the AI thing, which I've seen very little evidence of today. No offense to all PMS providers.
Even if they don't, a lot of campground owners, I know I did, I found the best rewards card I could, and everything I purchased and all my bills, utilities, everything went on that card, right? I want as many rewards as I can. So I've got years of purchasing data. The AI can look at that and go, hey man, it's usually about this time of year you order new sheet sets for all your cabins. You want to do that? Well, yeah, I want to do that.
Well, but think further than that. Think to your inventory, man.
All of it.
When you purchase something, you scan it in, and then every time it sells, the AI knows one down, and I just automatically place an order when you're almost out, and here's your shipment arrived. You're like, what the fuck is it in my mailbox? Oh, it's a box of RV tape or duct tape or whatever the fuck else, right?
Yep.
That I didn't even know I was out of because I didn't have a time because I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off running my campground.
Yep, everything, your office supplies, stock in your stores, everything that you need. If you've got a purchase history on it, and even if you don't, it's not going to take it long for it to figure it out, because you're going to have a conversation like we are with, oh, and by the way, man, AI, whatever you want to name. Hey, Joe was my AI. I need 3 of these by this weekend. Okay, well, now it's learned that. It repeats it next year. This is going to be an awesome tool for park owners, not just park owners, for every industry, and for consumers privately. Like, this will be spectacular when it finally gets going.
Maximize your inventory thing, but also understand the consumer behavior of what people are actually buying.
Yep.
Like, how much are they buying? When are they buying it? What quantity are they buying it? And is there time of week they're buying it, or a time of weekend, or a time of year? And then what do I stock? When do I stock it? Can I get rid of this product because it's sat on the shelf for X number of months more than the other product? Because now, even though they're all selling by the end of the year, maybe if I devoted 2 shelves to this product, I would sell way more of it and make more money.
Yep.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really cool. I can't wait to see where this goes. When I first saw it, I thought, oh my God, I'm never giving that thing my credit card. And then I went, wait, I have zero liability. The credit card company, right? So you can have it. Go for it. And to your point, each transaction will be spun up. It's not going to use my credit card number. That will never be exposed to a vendor. It's going to be just like Google Pay. It's going to use a quick one-off. You're going to get charged, and that number never gets used again. And everything has.
This is where I know, man. I know. You can call it egotistical. You can call it whatever. You're gonna want a Brian, because I'm gonna know how to implement all this stuff, and I'm gonna know how to work it. And there's not gonna be other people besides me. Of course there is. That's why I said a Brian, right? You're gonna need somebody on your team who knows how to implement, how to work, how to test, what's out, what's new, what can integrate, how can integrate, what can I tie in with the systems, what can I automate, what can I link together. You need that.
Well, if you want them to need that, we should probably stop talking about it, because we've now taught them all how they can go to ChatGPT and just ask it to teach them how to do it.
It can, but that's the point, is they're running their own campground. They don't have all that time.
Yep, that's right. You can't manufacture time for somebody, no matter how hard you try.
Until you clone people, and then it'll come. What was I watching? This is so far off topic. I was watching, I think it was one of the Tom Billios episodes the other day, and I need to go back and finish it. but they were talking about they had the guy on that cloned the direwolves, and he was talking about them and their company and all the things they're doing, and they're going to stay away from humans. But like the crazy stuff that they're talking about doing,
Mammoths.
like literally creating like animals outside of the womb, like completely growing animals, like without incubation and without crazy. And they're already doing a lot of this stuff. But
or so they say. Anybody? I mean, do you remember Elizabeth Holmes?
I mean, I do.
It could be a lot of that. It could be a lot of that too. We'll see what happens. But it is crazy.
I mean, anyway, like just where that stuff is going, man. Like, I'm not saying. And I was talking to my girlfriend about this. I'm like, I don't think I ever really. I've said this for years. Like, wait until I can clone myself. I'll be fine, right? I don't think I ever really want a clone of myself, but I would for sure take a clone of the information of my brain in an AI.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Oh, because then I can maybe find out why I'm such a jackass like 35 to 45% of the time. I could actually ask me. And then
somebody will figure that out.
Well, I mean,
10 to 15
she has.
years?
She's upstairs right now, and she tells me all the time.
Well,
and she's got it down to a
jackass piece. I'm talking about the cloning of your thing, right? Somebody's going to figure out how to like just do the electrodes on the outside of your head and go slurp it all out.
Yeah, and then it comes down to, does that mean that you live forever if your consciousness lives forever?
Yes, I think so.
Right.
That's a whole other existential discussion I've actually had recently, right? Like the whole like, oh, man, we're wading in some dangerous topic territory here that you probably don't want to comment on. I probably shouldn't comment on either, but like the whole religion is based on the body and the flesh. Like, is that a thing? Like I mean, and I'm not saying anything against religion, right? But like if you look at heaven or the thing of what heaven is supposed to be, like, isn't that kind of without your body in the beginning, but then eventually you come back down to earth and they reclaim it, and then the body, right? It's interesting. Like we imagine that living forever has to require us to have our bodies, but does it?
It's a great question.
Like if you're completely conscious and you believe you're experiencing things still, I don't know.
Yeah, then are you? It is.
Well, I'm not advocating for it. I'm not saying
no, I know.
life,
I'm not either.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's a better life.
It's a question.
But like it's much easier to see yourself living forever that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, we should probably wrap up the show.
Wrap it up.
Any final thoughts, Greg?
Yeah, final thought. Come on, GPT, whatever you guys are doing, let's get these AI purchasing things going. I can't wait to see it and play with it. It's going to go
a whole lot faster, but that's also going to be like that. Like this is the danger, man. Like I'm not going to call out companies, but I've for sure had a conversation with some marketplace companies over the last, and some of them still are in business, some of them aren't, right? Over the last 3-4 years, where I'm like, guys, this is coming, especially since ChatGPT. Like the reason that just take booking.com will stay outside of the industry, right? For the most part. Like the reason a lot of those companies exist is because Google sucks.
Yeah. Right.
And so you get there and right. But now Google's not going to suck. It's going to give you an answer, or ChatGPT is, or two. All of a sudden, who wants to go to your site and click all the boxes when they can just ask a question? You better be thinking about this, guys.
Yeah, right. Why would anybody do that when they can just go, hey, I had this idea. Done.
Yeah. And the answer I always get is, well, don't you think the consumer will still want control? Of course not. If they can get a better answer, quicker and more convenient, nobody wants to control the little mouse and point it at your little box. And
that actually is control.
Yeah.
Anyway. What you're describing is control, not pointing the mouse around. That's not control. That's time consuming.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. So did I interrupt your final thought, or are we done?
No. I really have thoughts that are worthwhile anyway.
I mean, neither do I. But like, we really should. Yeah. We really miss Scott, don't we? Like when Scott's
here, he is the glue. Scott is the glue. He keeps us on track. Otherwise you and I are like, beer.
Yeah. Like, and you see that, like next time, guys, if you're still with us on the show, watching at this point before we end in like 30 seconds, if you ever get to a point where you're like next week you're watching Scott, you'll hear him do this. I don't know if you've noticed this. Like when Greg and I were talking earlier about like the poop in the shower or whatever else, like every time we say something weird and then you go back to Scott's like, anyways, that's Scott's like dude, what are you
Come on,
guys
fellas.
talking about?
Yeah.
I don't really want a part of this, but I'm going to try to save the ship and say
Yeah.
something intelligent.
Yep.
And so he says anyway, probably at least a couple dozen times in the show because he's still with us.
Let's just do it right now. This is Scott's show, and we are just happy to be here.
Yeah.
Let's just say.
Anyways, okay. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Outwired. Really appreciate it. We will see you next week for another episode. Take care, guys. Peace.
Bye-bye.